What comes to your mind when you hear the word vampire? People who look human, but drink human blood? Those who fear sunlight and sleep inside coffins? That's what we've seen in movies since childhood. But is any of it real? One day in Florida, a group of teenagers went to the police station to file a missing report for their friend Sarah. They claimed that she was supposed to go out with them the day before, but she never showed up at the decided time, and her phone had been switched off since the previous night. No one knew where she had suddenly disappeared to. The police were still registering the report when an eerie call came into the station. On the line, someone was crying and screaming, but even after repeated questioning, the officers got no response. They traced the number and set out to find the source. The signal led them several miles away from Florida, but they still couldn't pinpoint the exact location. While driving through a deserted road, two officers, Brad and Derek, saw someone lying on the roadside. They immediately got out of the van and ran toward the unconscious figure. It was none other than Sarah herself. Her friends had given the police her photo when filing the report, so the officers recognized her at once. Sarah's body was pale and bluish, and blood was oozing from her left arm. The officers rushed her to the hospital as fast as they could. After examining her, the doctors told the police something shocking. For nearly 2 days, someone had been continuously draining Sarah's blood, which explained her extreme weakness. At first, the case seemed to be one of kidnapping or assault, but then the doctors revealed details that left everyone speechless. 3 of Sarah's teeth were missing, her hands had burn marks, and strange symbols in an unknown language were carved onto her stomach. Seeing all this, Brad and Derek became convinced that Sarah had been abducted by a dangerous cult. Brad handed some samples from Sarah A.'s clothes to Derek and told him to extract as much information as possible. That same night, Brad went out to investigate on his own. After driving for about an hour, he reached a forest far from the city, the same area where Sarah had been found. He began walking along the path, but, strangely, ended up right back where he'd started. Confused and disoriented, he tried to retrace his steps when suddenly he noticed several figures covered in blood emerging near his car. Their faces were twisted and horrifying, and they were slowly moving toward him. Terrified, Brad grabbed his gun from the back seat and fired, but to his shock, there was no one there. Just as he was about to leave, an overwhelming drowsiness came over him, as if someone had cast a spell. When Brad regained consciousness, he found himself tied to a table. A tube had been inserted into his arm, and his blood was being collected into a bottle. Across from him sat a young man and woman. They looked like ordinary people, calmly talking and eating dinner. But beside their plates sat a bottle filled with blood, which they took turns drinking from. That's when Brad realized the horrifying truth. They were vampires. Around the room, he saw black magic artifacts and piles of human teeth, likely used in dark rituals. It became clear to him that Sarah had been captured by these same people. By nightfall, Brad was so weak he could barely move, but somehow, with great effort, he managed to free his hands and escape from the house. Outside, he spotted a public phone booth and called the police station. By sheer luck, Derek answered the call. Brad tried desperately to explain everything, but Derek couldn't hear his words. Only the sounds of crying and screaming came through. Alarmed, he traced the call and drove to the location. A short distance down the road, he found Brad lying motionless, in the exact same spot where Sarah had been found earlier. Derek rushed him to the hospital, but within minutes, Brad was dead. Sarah, too, passed away soon after due to severe blood loss. After these horrifying events, Derek devoted himself entirely to investigating the case. Weeks later, deep in the forest, he discovered an old, run-down house with a broken phone booth right outside. The house appeared empty, but after a thorough search, the police uncovered evidence pointing to a secret vampire cult, a group that survived by drinking human blood and performing dark rituals. Since that day, no similar cases have been reported in Florida, but tales of vampires still echo around the world. This story is based on true events. But tell me, do you believe in vampires? And imagine this. If you went to sleep one night and woke up to find you turned into a bat. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.